Hey, Steph.
Hello.
Welcome back to another episode of Bariatric Banter podcast.
You betcha.
The podcast that just won't quit. Here we
Right?
are. Here we are.
Love it.
Love it so much.
Ugh.
So much.
I
Uh,
uh I apologize if you hear my stomach. I made the mistake of not eating lunch before we recorded. And I was like, I got time. I'm fine. I'll be fine. And then the inevitable, like 2 minutes before you start, all of a sudden, like the insane hunger kicks in. I'm like, oh, bad life choice.
bad life
I
choice.
just ate a baby meal and we'll see if it ties me over for the for the recording. Hopefully.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, but we'll see what
Okay.
tides me over as well. I'm looking at a snack box right beside me with like olives and a little turkey
Ooh.
pepperette. Have I eaten it in the last hour and a half that I meant to eat
No.
it? Absolutely not.
No. I think that's like well, and we were just saying, what are we gonna talk about today? I think that's like a big thing too, that as as we get further into like our journey and more like I guess more you could say more comfortable in our routines and our habits, I find that it's so easy to forget that kind of stuff. And, like, I remember at the beginning being so vigilant about eating every 2 hours and, like, having timers set and making sure that I was drinking every 15 minutes and I had my meals timed out every 2 hours, and it was so good. And now, because things have just become second nature, it's almost harder because now it is the norm and life happens and you're eating kind of normally again, and then all of a sudden you have those days where you're like, "Oh, shit. I haven't eaten all morning," which is so bad. And I'm lately, I think just with life being so busy, I'm finding myself getting in that rut again and having to really be like, "Steph, you gotta rein it in, like, you gotta stay on top of your routine," and trying to, like, rebuild that back in because I'm noticing I'll I'll eat really quickly together, and then I'll go on these big lulls, and then I'm ravenous and then I will go to eat, and then my restriction will kick in, and I'm not eating enough, and then I get to the end of the day, and I'm like, "Oh, crap, I still have 400 calories left," which doesn't sound like a lot, but when you're a bariatric patient, 400 calories is a lot to fill,
Yeah.
especially when it's, like, right before bedtime when you shouldn't really even be eating. So, I need to get better at pacing myself again and setting if I have to set a timer, I have to set a timer, but I need to kinda go back to the basics and keep myself on a better schedule again, for sure.
Yeah, and I think that's the same thing with me is like I've been desperately trying to get back to like routine. I keep thinking
Mhm.
back to like maybe I'm reflecting on it more these days, but I keep thinking back to like when I first had surgery and I'm like, "Oh, you were so regimented,
Yeah.
like woke up, you had your breakfast at this time, you had a snack, you had
Mhm.
like it wasn't like set my watch to it. Oh, 9:02, time to eat. But I knew that like I was eating breakfast, having a snack, having lunch, having a snack, like
Yeah,
I was, like, really obsessed with following that, and this is what we would do, and, like, even when I was traveling or at home, I would go, "Oh, sorry, I have to stop, guys, like, I have to have a
yeah,
snack now because I'm feeling a little ooh." Um, and then all of a sudden, it's like a light switched, and I'm like, "Yep, fuck that plan, out the window she
yeah,
goes." It's like, now I'm back in my super bad habits that I vented about before, like, in the early days of this podcast, not eating all day, skipping breakfast, like, not
yep,
being eating until after work and then you just wanna eat nonstop all night. You don't make the best choices when you do
yep,
that. Um, and I'm in those habits again where I'm like, "Oh, man." And
mhm,
it's funny you bring it up because, like, I start to think, like, how do I go back to the way it was before? And
yeah,
the annoying thing is, not that it's like how do I phrase this? It's not terrible now, but it's not as good as it was before. Like
right,
the regime, the regiment, however you want to word it, like my eating, my exercise, I was just functioning at like peak optimal levels for so long. I remember
yeah,
telling people, "Oh, I feel amazing. I sleep like a champ. I exercise like a champ. I feel great all the time. I have the perfect balance. My stress is minimal." And now I feel so much like old Hannah where I'm like, I'm sleeping like shit. My stress is insane.
yep,
I'm not eating on regular schedules. Like
yeah,
and I hate it. I hate
yeah.
it.
And then we wonder why, and then, like, you think about it, and you're like, "Because we're not fueling our body properly." Our body got so like I said, we were so regimented and, like you said, not necessarily setting your watch or your clock, but you were so much more cognizant of it, and you were so I think part of it too was, like, you're in the honeymoon phase, you're so excited, things are working, so you wanna stick with it, and you're really loving the results, so you're like, "Yeah, I'm gonna do this." And even like you said, if you're out or like I would be a lot more prepared going to get groceries and being out and about. I would have my snacks in my purse and I would knew that I was ready to go. And I was just a lot more cognizant of it. And now same thing, like you're tired, you're sluggish, you're not sleeping as well, you can't figure out why. The scale's not moving the way it should be. But then when you think about it, you're like, well, yeah, my body is used to being fueled in a certain way. And now I've totally taken that away, and I'm not hitting my protein. I'm not having that consistent calorie intake throughout the day that my body was so used to that it needs to have that energy through the day. I'm now sending it into these spikes and lulls all over again, and then I wonder why at 3, 4 o'clock I can barely keep my eyes open. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know, and, like, I was saying to Devin yesterday, I don't know if I need to go back to the point of, "Okay, Steph, like, you have to set a timer on your clock now because you really gotta get back into this habit." Like, do I need to go back to that super, super extreme? I don't know, maybe I do, because I am finding that I'm like, "Oh, yeah, I'll just do send this email, and then I'll get a snack." And then that email turns into this email, turns into that message, turns into this, and then all of a sudden, it's an hour and a half later, and then that snack is late, which then means your next meal is late, which then means everything kinda gets pushed out, and then, like I said, you hit the end of the day, and you've got all these calories left, which then either you're slamming your face full of food right before bed, which is not great, or you're just not hitting your goals for the day, which isn't gonna get you your results either. So, I definitely need to be a lot more cognizant of my timing and spacing because I'm noticing a lot of nights now where I'm getting close to bedtime, I'm a little hungry, I check my Fitness Pal, and it's like, "You have 468 calories." I'm like, "Well, that's not happening right before bed." So, I
Yeah,
got
and that's
one.
I need to get back to tracking and, like, so I've been going back and forth on this for a hot minute, and I think you know that because 'cause I've been venting to you about it, but I wanna get back to, like, how I felt the first year and a half out of surgery, and
Yep,
I've been doing a lot of reading and sharing it with you, and maybe we'll share it with the listeners, but we found the Obesity Canada Bariatric Guidelines, and that is kinda like they are the ones who kinda dictate to the hospitals, the clinics, blah, 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 their recommendations for anybody going through bariatric surgery, from exercise to vitamins to whoop, 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 and one of the biggest, I think, ones that I noticed that we kind of did, but maybe not to the extreme, was they said that exercise actually needed to be 150 minutes minimum, but they recommend 300 minutes a week. And I think you and I were both like, yeah, but we do that. And then I sat and stopped for a minute and I was like, no, I
no,
don't think I do because that's close to 50
it's
minutes a day.
crazy, and I said to you, like, hard pass." And I'm like, "Whether you're bariatric or not, I don't think 45 minutes a day for anyone is what they should be saying." Like, 150 minutes is 30 minutes 5 days a week. Okay, that's cool, but I think 45 minutes of exercise every day, 7 days a week is not sustainable for the majority of people. For people who are hardcore into athletics and working out and that kind of stuff, okay, maybe, but for the average person, that's a lot, and I'm all about movement because I mean, like, I'm working out, I'm doing the things, but even I don't do 45 minutes 7 days a week. I focus on at least 30 minutes of movement, and, like, that doesn't have to be crazy exercise, that could just be a walk, that could be there's days where my exercise is technically a rest day, so, like, I'll do mobility and stability or joint mobilization or just stretching because that's super important also. Um, but I don't think 45 minutes 7 days a week is sustainable and realistic for a lot of people.
That's
For some,
a
sure,
lot.
right? Yeah,
Now,
like
I'm
150.
going
Okay,
I'm
sure.
gonna play the devil's advocate here,
Yeah, yeah.
my favorite advocate, I should go as him for Halloween. Um, here's my thing though. The other more concerning part about that document was when they started talking about the regain part
Yep.
and where they talked about, like, it's inevitable, basically. Their recommendations to clinics and hospitals is that, like, you can't ignore this part of of it. You have to. And they even called out, like, we often find clinics just won't talk about this or don't go into enough detail and don't follow up enough on it. Actually, you guys will love this document because they directly call out the program and kind of say, like, you often leave people with no insights after the first year. And I'm like, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
fucking do. And so
Accurate.
they go into great detail about how there's no good follow-ups here, and people aren't kind of going through enough of a post 1-year follow-up to be able to
Yeah.
measure regain, but they suspect it's higher than what's quoted, which is the 10 to 15. They think it's closer to
Yeah.
35% regain, and they even call out in this document, there's very little you're gonna be able to do to stop most of this. Your body actually starts to acclimate to the surgery, go back to its old habits and ways. Metabolism, for some reason, goes back to slowing down.
Yep.
PCOS symptoms come back, insulin resistance comes back, and it's almost kind of unavoidable. Now, we don't believe in like weight just happens overnight, but there is this portion where they're kind of saying like you need to prepare people that they're going to put weight back on, that they're going to stop losing weight quicker, and then it's probably going to come back on just due to the fact that their bodies can't maintain surgery forever. And that's been really interesting to me. And I've been researching and deep diving into that. And it's kind of true that like the first year you lose weight is a combination of the surgery, the rapid changes to your body and other things, but eventually your body gets used to that,
Yeah.
adjusts to that,
You
and
have a new
will
norm.
go back to wanting to gain weight after that. And
Yeah.
it's not because you're maybe doing bad things, but I think that's where this recommendation comes from. And I know we hate to hear it, but I think that's where this 45 to 50 minutes a day recommendation is coming because it's no longer going to work for you to eat and do the exercise you've maybe been doing in your first year when your body decides to reset after that point. And that's
Yeah.
what's been on my mind
Yep.
for
And
the last couple of days.
I think that's fair. Like during the program, so my when I had my 1-year appointment, they did tell me 30% of people will regain. They said 30 to 35, which is what the social worker told me. But and I agree, like, they also in the first year of the program, they focus a lot on walking, and I remember, like, in all of my appointments when I was telling them the workouts I was doing and the types and the frequency, they were all like, "Whoa, whoa, like, that's a lot." So I think they do underplay it in the programs a lot, and they do not I'm not saying walking is bad by any means, but they really just push walking as your exercise, and they talk about weights for loose skin and muscle mass, but they really put an emphasis on walking. I think for me, the thing is, and that I've always been a believer of, is it's not so much like I don't think you need to do 45 to 60 minutes of hardcore exercise. I think what it comes down to is, are you moving your body? So for me, I go for at least 30 minutes. That's my minimum is 30 minutes. But it's, are you moving your body? Are you getting your heart rate up consistently during that time? Are you doing are you doing the right form and the right movements, to count it as exercise? Like, I don't count when I do 30
Yeah.
minutes of stretching, I don't count that as exercise, but there's so many trainers and people out there that I follow that, like, I truly believe where they say, like, so many people think that you have to do 60 minutes of hardcore
Well, and
exercise
like,
for it to work, right?
yeah, even
And
this
I
document says it doesn't need to be hardcore. They're
Yeah.
recommending walking.
Yeah. See, like, and that's where I think some of the differentiation comes, right? Is are we talking walking? Are we talking strength training? Are we talking zone 2 cardio?
No.
What are we looking at, right? So for me, I don't think you need to do 45 minutes of strength training every day. No, I think movement 100%. And I have to get movement in every day, but I think a lot of times like people get in their head that they have to do this crazy 45, 60 minutes of hardcore exercise a day. I think
Agreed,
yeah, like it's
but it's not.
exercise is a must, 100%. And yeah, like you said, your body is going to get into a new norm. Like it's gonna adjust, it's gonna get used to things. And that's where I think we've talked about too, where people kind of take that first year for granted and they get see the success and then they think that it's just gonna continue with little effort.
I
And
think
not the
yeah,
case, like, you have to put in the work because, yeah, your body comes in like, it gets into a new norm and things become regular, and when you think about before surgery, when our body was in that normal state, we had to work really hard to see any change, so it's wrapping your head around that mentality of, "I still have to put in the work. I still have to watch my food. I still have to exercise." Like, it's not
I
gonna be
think
a honeymoon forever, and I think some people get caught up in that.
and I think, like, I'm not like fight is the wrong word. I think I'm going to argue slightly against just one point of it. I do agree. And even in this document, it said this is not hardcore hit. And I think you've heard us say that before. Like, you guys don't need to be doing CrossFit training
Yep,
because it's not sustainable. And there was a section where they said you have to do what's sustainable. And
totally.
that's a lot of what I saw when researching this from like medical papers and other clinics. They said that unfortunately, your first year of surgery is just not sustainable. You
No.
cannot live on 1,000 calories for
No.
life, and so, like, eventually, you do have to get back to a more normal but it's not it's not the fact that you're eating 1,500 calories that causes the regain, it's
Yeah,
that your body can't stay in a post-surgery state for that long, and
for sure.
so, there's that kind of aspect of it, but when it comes to the exercise part, I think this is where I'm struggling as an almost 3-year post-bariatric person. I don't agree that 30 minutes is enough. I truly think that you need to be walking a minimum of 45 minutes a day.
I think that's where our difference comes in, right? I'm not talking about walking. I'm talking about, like, weight strength training,
But they
Pilates.
only recommend strength training 2 days a week now instead of
So
3, and
yeah,
I know that there's been all these studies that say, like, strength training helps you lose weight. It's important to maintain your muscle, but this is where I
it
get
is.
kind of frustrated with some bariatric people who are like, "Yeah, but I do yoga." "No."
It's
"Well, I
not
do Pilates." "No." And, like, I'm not disagree strength training is so important, but a lot
not
of
for weight
people
loss.
consider it
We're not
exactly. A lot of
yeah,
people consider strength training something that you do on top of what you're doing, and so I do agree with the Canadian Obesity Organization, canadaobesity.ca or whatever it is, that I do think in order to try to combat the weight regain that is going to be really prevalent in this community, you gotta like 45 minutes for me is roughly 5 kilometers. And I used to last year, I was walking an hour a day. I'd either go in the morning or I'd go after work and I would just do a nice little 1 hour loop and come home. Now I know that in the winter that's not possible. And that's what happened. I ended up getting really sick. I struggled
yeah,
to get back into consistency and routine. And I'm paying the price now. Like I can admit that I'm very out of shape. I'm very worried about what is happening and the regain and I'm craving sugar and I don't want to eat regular like the old version of me is becoming so strong and I'm very concerned about
yeah,
it. But
which
I
is
can absolutely admit that doing a 1 hour walk a day
yeah,
was so fucking beneficial for me
yeah.
and I
No,
can't
and
not recommend that for people. Like,
for sure, and I'm not and I don't want anybody to think that I'm downplaying walking
no, nobody
by
would
any
no, you're not. No.
I think the big key differentiator here and the thing that we have to keep in mind is different things will work for different people, right? And you like you said, you have to do what's sustainable. And I'll be honest, like for me to set aside an hour a day to exercise is not sustainable just because
Oh,
of
for
my
sure.
kids, work, all that kind of stuff, right? So I would rather put in a super dedicated 30-minute workout at not high intensity, but I know I'm at zone 2, I know my heart rate's up, I know I'm lifting heavy, I know I'm doing whatever versus not working out or versus doing something, I'm not gonna say
Mm,
it, like yoga that I don't really
no.
consider like
And
weight
I
loss,
don't mean to shit on
right?
yogis. I
No, no, no.
really
But
don't.
I don't think that I think yoga and all that is great, like, I'm going to a Pilates class on Saturday, I fucking
Yeah.
love Pilates. I
I
love
love Pilates, but I don't count that
Pilates.
towards my
I'm
calorie
not
burn.
I'm not counting that towards weight loss, like exercise. For
No,
me, it's a mix of strength training,
correct.
aquafit, Zumba, Pilates, stretching, and cardio. Like,
Yeah.
I mix everything together. But I think what it really comes down to is and we've talked about this in all different ways is setting goals that you know you're going to be consistent with, you know you're going to hit and that are sustainable because my thing is if I go into it thinking, "Oh my god, I have to do 45 minutes of exercise every day or I'm going to gain all my weight back," I'm going to spiral. It's going to stress me
Oh,
out.
yeah, and,
My
like
cortisol is going to go. I'm going to be all pissed off at myself the days that I don't hit it. I'm going to panic about yeah, like it's going to for me, it's going to cause me more stress than good. But if you can do it, and if you are somebody who can sustain
I
that
don't
daily exercise, then 100% it's phenomenal, and I think it is key and crucial.
I don't
But
think it needs to be done all at the same time. I think it can be split up. I think this is really interesting because when you listen to me talk about bariatric surgery, especially in my first year or early on in this podcast, I wholeheartedly agreed with you that just getting out for a 30-minute run was enough and like just doing a little bit here and there was enough. Now that I've hit what I would call the 3-year, like really struggle bus city mode, where I'm kind of in the same boat as Tanya, and I'm kind of in the same boat as, that other little bariatric girl that Jenna Bariatrics, like, all who are on Ozempic and dealing with regain and, kind of explained how the food noise came back out of nowhere and stuff came back out of nowhere. I think I'm realizing that in my first year, I did not need to work out as much. Like, in my first year, I could just do 30 minutes and I was great. Like, in my first 8 months, I just did Pilates because
Yeah.
that time I wasn't like going out for massive giant hikes and other things. Like I was maybe on the weekend hiking. And then kind of towards the end of my first year, I really got into like making sure I was going for 5K a day and then kind of looking at 10Ks on the weekend. Like it was fun for me. I was doing what was fun
Yeah.
for me.
Yep.
Now I'm realizing though that I don't think at 2, 3, 4, 5 years post-op, I actually have the luxury to do a simple little exercise. Like, I actually think I need to get back into looking at a 30-minute walk in the morning and maybe a 30-minute walk before bed.
Yeah.
I think I genuinely do need to do more than that, and the other thing that I struggle with is I so heavily relied on my fitness apps to tell me how much I was burning, and there's just been so many studies recently saying, like, they're not accurate. Garmin, Apple, none of them are actually
I don't
like,
track calorie burn whatsoever. I simply
yeah.
go by time. I
I
do
think
not
I need to
look at
stop that.
calories.
I think I
Yeah,
need to stop tracking calorie burn,
I
and to
never
your
do it.
point, just go by time or
Yeah,
distance. Like, I think it's okay to say, "I'm gonna just go walk a 5K today, and
yeah, yeah,
if I
for
get
sure,
it done in X amount of time, I get it done in X
for
amount of
sure.
time." Um,
No,
because you don't need
the
to be
calories are shit. They're
yeah,
totally wrong. Like, because and I know there's people who they'll be like, "Oh, well, I did a workout and I burned 300 calories, so I can have this to eat." I don't look at and I've had people message me, like, when I post my workouts, they're like, "Oh my god, look at all the calories you burned," and I
well,
laugh.
look,
I'm like, "That's not accurate."
it's not
Right? I
accurate.
don't go by the calorie burn at all. I go
No.
by for me, it's time just because that most of my workouts are time-based. I strictly go by, did I get X number of time in? Yeah, the calories are so fucked.
Exactly, and I agree with you. So I know we're not disagreeing and we're not fighting about this. I think we
Yeah.
just believe different things, and
Well, it's a
I
different
wanna
right? Like, we're
yeah,
into different things, and this is where it like, I say you gotta do what works for you and what you find enjoyable because that's what you're gonna do, and that's where, like, we are into different types of exercise, we like different types of exercise, so we're gonna have differing opinions on what's
we
worked
do.
for us, what hasn't worked for us, what we wanna do, like,
Yeah,
I I walk, but my workouts are n rarely walking based. I love strength training, whereas, like, I know that's not your jam.
I'm a jam.
I Right? So, like, we're gonna have different
Should be my jam though because I'd be weak
Should
as
be.
hell. But I think, like, this is where I wanna hear from some other people that are, like, 5 to 10 years post-op
Yeah.
because I'm just in a really shitty phase right now. Like, I feel like and I've
Sure.
told this to everybody, I felt like this was gonna be the hardest bariatric year, and maybe I'm, self-fulfilling a prophecy there, but it has been where it's like,
Mm,
Jesus Christ, the speed at which you can fall off track is alarming. The speed at
sure.
which you just kind of get a little complacent and take things for granted is alarming, but also the way your body changes, I don't think people are maybe prepared because in your
Mhm.
first year, even going into your second, you genuinely feel like this is how you're going to feel for the rest of your life. This is incredible. This is amazing. I love it. And it does change though. And if you're already off to a bad start in your first year, and sorry, bad is the wrong word, but if you're already maybe
A rocky
behind
start?
on your weight loss in your first year, you're not exercising in your first year, you're not following an eating plan in your first year, like good luck because
Yeah.
I was following an eating
Yeah.
plan. I was following my exercise routine. Um, and then I got complacent with that. But if
Yeah.
I had already started in a bad spot, like
Oh
The
god.
thing that's at least
Sure.
beneficial now is I want to protect my 160-pound weight loss at any fucking cost. If
Oh,
I had only lost like 50 or 60 pounds, I wonder if I would be fighting as hard to get everything back where it needs to be, or if I'd be
right.
like, well, it was only 50 pounds, right? Like I've
Well,
heard
yeah,
so many people say that, well, I've only lost 60 pounds.
not a big deal.
And like, we're not, it is a big deal. That's a lot
It
of
is a
weight
big
loss. But do
but
you
you
know
hear
what
people
I feel
say,
like?
"It's not a big deal, it's only
Well,
50 pounds."
but I
That is
feel
a
like
big
I'd be that person. Like, if I had
Mhm.
fallen off the wagon, I feel like I'd be like, "Whatever, it's 50 pounds, I didn't even lose that much."
Right.
So, I'm not trying to scare anybody or,
But
like,
yeah,
freak anybody out, but, like,
it's
your
why we
body.
say, like, at the beginning, get your habits in place
Oh god, please.
ASAP, like,
Yeah.
right away, because, like we started talking about, like, the 2-hour eating thing, the quicker you can notice that you've fallen off of those habits,
Mm.
the easier it is, and because we were so into those habits, the sooner you can notice you're falling off those, the sooner you can get back on track, and not that it's easy, but the easier because you've already done it, you already know it, you've
Mhm.
already gone through it. If you wait too long to set those habits and get that mindset in there and get started, to your point, it's gonna be almost impossible, and that I remember when I was talking when I was, like, fresh out of surgery, and I forget who I was talking to, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, I can't wait to get cleared to, like, lift weights," and I was so anxious to get back to the gym, and I remember I had a couple people saying like, "Well, why? Like, you just had surgery, chill out, da da," and I was like, "No, because the sooner I can get back into routine and
Yep,
back into habits, the better down the road, because things just need to become the norm and need to become second nature. And we've talked about, if you don't get these habits and this mindset in place off the bat, it's hard enough when you're struggling and falling off the wagon to get back on track. To
yep.
be off the wagon and have to start again or start from scratch is so incredibly hard.
It's tough, and I think that's just gonna be my message to everybody is like, when you've heard us say it, the first year is truly a gift, like, it changes. Your body will change, and there is gonna be inevitable things that you can't combat. PCOS symptoms are better, don't get me wrong, they're much better,
Yeah,
but they don't just
fair.
vanish. So I still deal with insulin resistance. I still deal with other things, and you're one illness, one minor inconvenience away from having all of that put on the shelf, and then it's a matter of how are you gonna get back into it? And, like, that's all it took for me was a major illness derailed my routine to the point where I couldn't get it back on track.
Yeah.
And now I'm sitting here wondering how the hell did Hannah, who was so on top of all of this, who was working out every day, who would like, how is she now not eating regular meals, not meal prepping the way she used to be? Like, I've gone through and deleted all the delivery apps again off my phone because that's a horrible, horrible slope to go down. And I
Mhm.
get it. It's winter. The weather's total
Yeah.
bullshit. It's snowing here nonstop. In Kitchener, it snows every day, like 30 centimeters. We are snowed in. It's been a really rough December, January for I think
Mhm.
everyone.
Everyone,
Everyone I've spoken to is just
everyone.
mentally over this, not in a great place, like
Yeah.
tired, exhausted, cold.
Yeah.
And so
It's
it's just a combination of, like, you're kind of off your game because you're sick, you're ill, you're dealing with some stuff, and then, right into winter where "Oh, well, I'll start working out more when the sun comes back." Like, the amount I've told myself, "Yeah, but when spring comes, you're gonna be outside doing a ton of stuff anyway." And it's like, "Girl, who are you kidding right now? Like, if you don't get
Yes.
back on track now when it's hard, the fuck makes you think you're gonna do it when it's easy?"
Right, and I
So
part of it too is, like, I think because, and we've talked about this a little bit, but because we saw so much success at the beginning and we were
Mhm.
so vigilant, that when we start to fall behind, we're really hard on ourselves,
Oh, I'm
and
incredibly hard on myself.
yeah, and, like, we hate to admit, not, and I don't wanna say failure because we're not failing, but we hate
Feels
to
like it.
admit that we've dropped the ball, and we hate to admit that we're starting to see old things pop up that we thought we had won against and battled against. And it's really hard and it's scary because then you start thinking about the old ways and the old life and how you used to be and how hard you worked to get here. And it's really easy to spiral down and get into that mindset of, like you said, well, I'll just start again tomorrow, or I'll just do it another
I'll
day, or
just
I'll
do it
just
another
do it
day.
later. And it really quickly starts to go downhill. And it's really hard because, like I said, we put in so much work to get to where we are,
Yep.
and then to see us take some step backwards just as people, it's really hard,
Of
and
course.
that's where it's gotta be that mix of, give yourself grace, but
To an
be
extent.
but it's a yes, it's a mix of give yourself grace, but be accountable for your actions and make the steps needed to change it without
Yeah.
beating yourself up
I
about
mean,
it
yeah, we're not.
to spiral down again,
Don't
right?
be
But
don't be mean and harsh on
yeah,
yourself, but, like, there's a certain
be
extent that
accountable.
grace has to stop because it's becoming a crutch. Like,
Yeah,
you have to be smart enough to tell yourself that are you making excuses or are you giving yourself grace?
yeah,
Because there is a very fine fucking line between the
yes.
2, and if
Agree.
you're constantly using that as a crutch to not have to push yourself, so for those who listen to us talk right now and go, "Oh, I don't need to do more than 30 minutes, that's absurd." Just stop for a minute, though, and just really let our message sink in that, like, we're not trying to force you into it. We're saying there has to be a reason that Obesity Canada is saying that 150 is the minimum you need to be doing a week. And if you are dealing with a little bit of regain or slow to lose weight, I think you need to stop and go, maybe the 30 minutes actually isn't enough for me. Maybe there's a range for a reason. Some of you will be perfectly fine at 30 minutes a day.
Yeah,
Some of you unfortunately might need 40, 45, 50. They're like, and we're again, we didn't say
and that's why I
CrossFit,
say you
right?
gotta do
We just said
what works for you and
easy.
what yeah, you
But
gotta do what works for you and what
yeah,
makes you successful, right? There's a difference between saying and this is where I don't want my message to get construed, is there's a difference between saying, "Well, I only have to do 30 minutes a day because that's what they say,"
ah,
versus
don't listen to us.
right, versus I can do 30 minutes a day because it's working and because that is successful for my body. There's a difference. And it like you said, if you're doing the 30 minutes a day and it's not working, then you need to evaluate why. Do I need to increase my exercise? Am I not on top of my nutrition? Am I not tracking
Yes.
my food? Am I eating a lot of processed foods instead of whole foods? Like you have to step back and take a look. And yeah, like you said, 30 minutes for some people awesome, cool, it does the trick, but if it doesn't, then you need to reevaluate and say, "Okay, I gotta up my game, I gotta change something." And I was actually reading something the other day where they're recommending to, like, incorporating because we said, like, strength training 2 or 3 times a day depending on where you're reading and stuff, but yeah, like, they're saying your exercise should not be strictly strength training, that's not gonna get you
Yeah,
where you need to go.
but just like it
Um,
shouldn't be
but
strictly
they're
what?
yeah, they were saying I forget where I read this, but I think the new study that they found is your body, um, responds best when you mix 2 to 3 types of exercise in your routine, and you mix
Yes.
up the order. So so you can look at that too and say, "Okay, I'm doing 30 minutes of walking every day. I'm not seeing success. Okay, well, then maybe you need to up it a little bit. Maybe you need to throw in a strength training once or twice a week. Maybe you need to throw in a Pilates once or twice a week. Like your body, like we said, your body gets into a new norm and gets very complacent. You got to kind of switch it up and surprise it from time to time and throw it a curveball. So I think it was three. I think three is what they were saying. But anyway, yeah, like, you gotta do what works for you, and if it's not working, then be honest and say, "Okay, I gotta do something about this," and not make excuses about it. There's clearly something that needs to change, and it's usually movement and nutrition. Let's be honest.
Yeah, and I like, if you're looking at this and you're going, "Well, I am tracking, I am eating well," okay, then look at exercise. Like, you have to look at it all, but
The whole picture,
also,
yeah.
like, there might come a time that you have to admit that you'll either stay where you're at or you'll
Yep.
need to increase things, and you've heard us say, we don't wanna be the type of people that need to work out 6 hours a day and be on super restrictive diets for life. Like,
Hell
that's
no.
not the life we want. However, I'm not against reevaluating and saying, "Okay, but the life that you need to lead to be where you wanna be means you have to work out every day and means that you're gonna have
Yeah.
to watch what you eat." So, you need to figure out what your deal is, and then please remember that, yes, you can get away with things in your first and even your second year to an extent. You can be a little bit lax with your working out, you can eat, and, like, weight regain does not happen in a week, in a
Overnight.
month.
Yeah.
It will be months later that you start to realize, "Oh my god, I
Bullshit.
think I'm 10 pounds heavier than I was," or, "Oh, this doesn't fit as well as it did." It takes a minute for all of this to fall off the track, and
Yep,
that's what makes it harder is that it's the result of several months of letting some things slide, and then you have to go back to, "I have to cut out delivery, I have to cut out this, I now need to get back to working out every day when I've been kind of lazy this year and just walk the dog a few times a day." But also, you don't have to do all your exercise at once. Like, I do walk the dog several times a day. It does usually lead up to there are
yeah,
days when him and I are out and we get close to 8K. It's not all at the same time. The thing that I'm trying to preach, I think, is consistency, is
yeah.
that it's you gotta be
Oh
consistent, and
god, consistency is king in everything.
I fell off the consistency, and it's
Yep,
really your body wants to go back to the way it was before. So it's really good at telling you, like, it's okay to don't do anything today. You're tired. It's fine. Today's a really cold day and you just aren't feeling it. It's fine. Like you have to have discipline over like anything else, any other emotion or ambition or what it's discipline. You kind of are going to have to force yourself some days to get up and do these things that maybe you don't want to do, but we are not going to hold on to our weight loss and our surgery success by not doing anything. It's just not possible, and
yep.
diet alone won't be
No.
enough, but
And you have to be like you said too, but some of us also have to, just like before, put in a little extra work. Like those of us with let's say thyroid issues or PCOS, or
yep, PCOS.
those of us sitting over here who are in the deep throes of perimenopause.
Oh
Like that
god, right?
shit is real. And can I tell you, I'm like in the last 2 weeks, my symptoms have at least doubled. Like it's
Oof.
bullshit. And that stuff's real, and that's gonna make it even harder, and that's gonna make you have to work a little bit more. So you gotta be cognizant of that stuff too. And again, they're not not to use them as an excuse. There's days like I've vented and bitched to Hannah so many times that for the last 12 weeks, the scale has not moved for me. I'm still stuck in those 2 frickin' pound ranges. Um, but I know that a lot of that is hormonal, a lot of that is the perimenopause, but I'm staying consistent within that range, which is key. And so, yeah, I'm not seeing the scale go down, but I know that putting in the work with my nutrition and my
Mhm.
exercise is at least keeping me consistent,
Yep.
which at this point, I got to take the win as that. But that again, where I know that because I have perimenopause and PCOS fighting against me, I know I have to work a little bit harder and I know I have to push my body a little bit harder than maybe somebody who can put in the 30 minutes and call it a day and be fine, and we have to remember that stuff too. You gotta take that into consideration, when you're looking at the whole picture.
Yeah, and I think you're always gonna be harder on yourself than other people are,
Totally. Oh god,
and,
for
I
sure.
mean, it's because you and I talk about this all the time, but I was messaging Steph because I was like, "Oh my god, this is horrible. I must have gained a ton of weight. I look like shit. These clothes look like I was at
You
a
look exactly the same, Hannah.
Oh, I was like, "Look how fat I am. This is disgusting. Like, these
Yeah.
clothes don't fit." Like, I was and Steph was, like, definitely like, "Oh my god, you're good." And I was like, "No, I'm not. Like, you're not listening. Like, I'm so bloated. Nothing's fitting. And this is" and I sent her all these pictures being like, "Look," and you were like, "You look exactly the fucking same." And I was like, "No, I don't." But, like,
Right? You're
get in your
always
own
your
head.
worst critic.
You convince yourself that all of this has happened, you then
Yeah.
get very defeatist that, "Oh my god, how did this happen?" The
Yeah.
truth is, like, it was all hormonal. It was all
Right.
hormonal. I was super bloated, my period
Yep.
was very, like, late to
You were
start.
stressed, water
I
retention.
had so much PCOS symptoms, like, I
Yeah.
had cramps, water retention,
Yep.
bloating. I, like, obviously was very agitated and anxious and annoyed, and it was all hormonal, and then
That's
as
so
soon as
smart.
it eventually came a couple of days later,
Oh, look
it's
at
like,
that.
"Oh, cool, everything fits better, I'm back to feeling great, I have the energy to work out," so she is right, like, I think that's the other thing to keep in mind is it's almost like in your first year, a lot of that doesn't exist, like, there's something about surgery and your body working on
Yeah.
what matters that it doesn't focus on the little things anymore, so you don't really have PCOS symptoms. My period symptoms were non-existent, like, I did not have crazy PMS, and they were a bit heavier, but they weren't that bad, like, I just
Your body's
felt great.
prioritizing healing over everything else, and then, like,
Exactly.
it gets back into its new norm, and it's like, "Oh,
Ugh.
here's the PCOS again, here's the perimenopause again,
Yes.
here's the
Yeah.
thyroid again."
Here's the bad sleeping,
Yeah,
and, oh, here's the achy joints, like, the amount that my hips hurt. I've been
Yep.
to my physiotherapist now 5 times to be like, "Am I fucking dying? Like, why do my hips hurt so bad?" And he's like, "You need to go get tested for arthritis." I think, like, it's hereditary in my family, like, all the
Yeah.
women on my mom's side have it, but he basically said, like, "I think you've just got it now, like, I think
Yeah.
it's finally showing
It's
itself," and I
coming.
was like, "Why now?" And he's like, "Well, this is the joy of weight loss, like, you've lost enough
Yeah.
weight that things that you just." It's like a house, like, it's like it prioritizes a hospital, it prioritizes things.
Yeah.
Your body needed to focus on way bigger health issues with your obesity,
Yep.
like you're out of breath, sweating, blah, 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 that now that you've lost weight, it's like, "Cool, is all
What
that
else
done?
can we
Great.
find?
This was always there, she just never felt it. Let's surface that now. Ooh,
Right.
this has always been dormant. Let's bring that to light." So keep
Yep.
that in mind, guys, is that we're not scaring you, but keep in like perimenopause, menopause,
Um,
hormones, like all of this will event PCOS, arthritis, like all these things will eventually come back and be something that you do have to deal with while, maintaining your weight loss and exercising, da 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 da. But in theory, if you practice the bariatric habits, it should lessen the effect of these. Like
yeah.
working out is great for a lot of this.
Yep.
Eating well is going to be great for a lot of it. So I do think that a lot of my issues that I'm having now are directly related to just not eating properly, not eating enough and not eating consistently. And if I get that back on track, I know it'll be way better for my hormones, way better for my PCOS symptoms,
Yeah.
way better for like my energy levels and my stress levels,
Totally.
and will help me not depend on coffee to keep me sustained for the entire goddamn day.
Yeah.
So join me on my journey to get back on track. And that's why I did the sugar reset and why I'm going to be trying really hard to like stick to a new exercise routine. I too am actually going back to Pilates, which is funny you mention it. It was just good for stretching and good for
Yeah.
arthritis.
It just
And
feels
it gets me in a routine. Is it for weight loss?
good.
No. But will it get me consistent with working out again? Yes. And then from that, I will be able to get the running back on track because it's so
Yeah.
painful right now. I had to shift from running daily
Yeah.
to back to running 3 times a week. And even that is so painful. And I'm only doing 1 to 2 kilometers. I'm not even doing 5 to 10 and everything hurts. So I'm hoping Pilates gets me back into doing something every single day, helps with the running, the stretching, and all of that jazz. But starting as of January 1st, like I'm on this new, like, get back on track mentality.
Love it. I
Yeah.
think our big thing, like, just to pull it all together, I think our big thing is really back to consistency. S Doing what works for you in terms of, and when I say what works for you, I mean what works in terms of being sustainable, but also works in terms of seeing success. Doing what works for you, but being consistent, and how important, whether you're bariatric or just on a health journey, consistency is key. And everything at the end of the day boils down to staying on track, being consistent, being honest and accountable with yourself. Not, again, like we've said before through this whole episode, not trying to scare you guys, not trying to sound
Oh,
doom,
no, no,
gloom,
no.
but how easy it can be when that consistency is gone to start to lose the momentum, fall off track, and then how hard it can be to get yourself back where it is. So the more you can stay consistent, the more you're going to see success. You're going to keep your stress levels down, and you're just going to set
Yeah.
yourself up for long-term success. So
Long term.
consistency, consistency, consistency.
Consistency and, what the fuck was the word I said? Dedication? Determination? I don't know, whatever that word is that means that, like, discipline took me a
Discipline. Yes.
discipline. I
Yep.
think if you could take away one word for your journey on this, it needs to be discipline, and I use that word because discipline is not easy, and it doesn't mean enjoyable or fun or easy. It means that on those days that you don't wanna do anything, you have the discipline to go, "But I know it's better if I do. I know it's better if I don't do this. I know that I have to make the harder decision. I know that I have to say no to having that snack that somebody made. I know I have to say no to staying inside all day and doing nothing. I have to have the discipline to really love myself enough to put it first." And
Totally.
yeah, I think you guys have got this. We are going to be you've seen my Instagram post to wrap it all up. I'm going to be testing some new products. I want to see which ones you guys want me to try first. Be doing some taste testing, some food testing. It's going to be fun. But like always, Steph, thank you for joining me on this week's podcast and thank
Thank you.
everybody for listening. We
Yep.
can't wait to be back in 2 weeks with some more banter about bariatrics. Keep those amazing, lovely comments coming. We love hearing them. Also, I will be in the United States in a week. So if there's any products that I need to try or buy, let me know. I am visiting New York for a work trip, and there's a Target right beside my hotel, thank God. So
Love it.
we'll be getting some American products. If there's anything good you want to recommend, let me know. I'll be hitting up Trader Joe's and Target.
Cool. Love it.
News. All right, thanks everybody. We'll see you in
Thanks,
2
guys.
weeks. Bye.
Bye.